What's up guys, JayzTwoCents here, and I'm going to be doing another GTX 1080 review. You don't gotta throw stuff at me. I know there's been a lot of GTX 1080 reviews around here, but you just don't pass up the opportunity to do a classified review when it comes your way. So anyway, we'll be taking a look at that. We'll be putting it up against their hybrid card, which is right around the same price point, and seeing how they compare. Like badassery on an air cooler, and almost just as badassery on water. And I'm kind of curious to see which is going to reign supreme. If you're sick of all the GTX 1080 reviews and you're just like, Jay, would you give it up already? Enough is enough. Well, I've got something for you too. It even comes in 3 sizes, including super absorbent to absorb all your tears.
What are you doing?
I just thought it was time for an upgrade.
That's Little Jay's Xbox.
Ah, much better.
How did you even get in here?
Just made a key last time I was here, no big deal. Really could go for a drink right about now, though.
I kind of feel like you've already done this whole living room thing before.
No, there's a different channel. These are horrible, man.
Well, you are breaking and entering.
No, I'm not. I've witnessed this.
The new Define Nano S from Fractal Design supports full-size power supplies, full-length graphics cards, room for a complete custom water loop, and heck, even room for a couple of freeloaders. Click the link in the description for more details. Fractal Josh, not included.
We should order pizza.
In all of its gunmetal, black and red goodness, here it is right here. Now red has kind of always been the color for the classified cards. It looks almost more pink-ish because it's against the white LED background, which is kind of unfortunate. But anyway, the backplate, as you can see, is nice and red. The grills show through on the backplate. But yeah, anyway, this card right here is no different than really any of the other classified cards they've made in the past. It's got a shit ton of power phases, 14 plus 3 for the memory, so 14 power phase. Now it's really no different than any of the other classifieds we've looked at in the past here. It's got all the features you would expect. It's an oversized card because the PCB has to fit 14 plus 3 power phase on there. That's why it's so tall. They've got to fit all those power phases and chokes on there. But so we're getting extremely clean power delivery, which should give us stable overclocks. Remember, the power phases aren't about getting more clock. It's about getting, I said clock, guys. It's about getting a very clean and stable power delivery to try and keep the maximum speeds as stable as possible. If you see any sort of power fluctuation when the core is running at its absolute limit, that can lead to crashes. So that's why you see all these extra power phases on here. It's not about more power delivery. Because believe it or not, the voltage on here is locked at 1.092 volts, just like the Founders, as far as it will go if you push the voltage to its limit. So you're not gonna be seeing the extra power voltage coming out of this thing. But anyway, there's debate on whether or not that's even beneficial anyway. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, it does have 2 8-pin power plugs on here because it has a 245 watt TDP, up from the 180 reference design. I'm not gonna call it Founders. It's the reference design from NVIDIA. Now, as you would expect from any other classified card that you've looked at in the past, it has also got on here harnesses that you can plug in so that you can monitor hardware monitoring of voltages and things like that, so that you're not relying on software, which can be fairly inconsistent and inaccurate when you're doing software level voltage monitoring. So this does allow you to plug in a harness and hook a voltmeter up to it so that you can monitor that at a hardware level, which is the most accurate. And of course, it's got dual BIOS on here. And the second BIOS, or the slave BIOS, giving you a more aggressive fan curve out of the box. It's not gonna try and shut off the fans to keep it nice and cool or quiet. We want it cool, right, in these instances. And it's also gonna give you additional power limit, I believe all the way up to 130%. That's a pretty big deal. They should have just called this the GTX 1080 Gargantuan Edition because the classified cooler is so freaking huge. Now the out-of-the-box specs on the GP104 core, it's the Pascal, it's the same as all the other 1080s, but it's got a 1721 megahertz base clock and an 1860 megahertz boost clock, identical to the hybrid that we took a look at last week. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really interested in comparing this to the hybrid to see how it actually holds up. So I think it's going to be kind of like a battle of the Titans. Only they're not Titans, they're GTX 1080s. But of course, it's got the other things that you would expect on there, like RGB lighting control. There are no lights that light up on the backplate, which is kind of a good thing. I don't personally like backplates that light up. I think it looks a little bit extra flashy and gaudy. But you can control the LED color for the logo and the face right here. And the nice thing is when the color actually shines through, the red on the face really no longer shows. Like I did green, and green shows up just fine. Blue, white, the red just is flushed out. But unfortunately, if you're doing a color themed build, the red on the backplate is always going to be red. So this will obviously look best in a red build, but I guess it's up to you whether or not the red is an issue. But the last thing to mention spec-wise here too is this doesn't have any sort of factory boost to the memory speeds. It's 5006, so 10,012 effective out of the box. But of course, we've already seen that the G5X is overclocking very, very well. You can expect to be able to push this up to about 11,000 with no problems whatsoever. All right, enough chatting. Let's go ahead, put this thing through the paces. Let's compare it to the Founders and the Hybrid, and then let's see just how well it does. Of course, we're going to put the Titan in there, but that's just because, I mean, I don't know. That's not even really like a real benchmark on this. It's just like, let's just take ridiculous and compare it to realistic. But anyway, yeah, let's do it, guys. Go.
Transition.
EVGA 1080 classified. Does it live up to the standard? Well, out of the box settings, it's really like any other GTX 1080. They all pretty much go to at least 2000 megahertz out of the box, which is just crazy to say. Last year, a graphics card that could do 2000 megahertz out of the box was kind of unheard of, but we're there. But what really differentiates them is the coolers, because as they start to warm up, the core clocks will start to come down slightly. Now, right now, Heaven's been running here for quite a while, and we're sitting at 1974 megahertz at 70C. So that's why I included the hybrid benchmarks in the charts, because they're fairly comparable price. I think there's about $20 or $30 difference between the two cards. And they have two very different approaches. Obviously, the hybrid is built on the For the Win PCB with a hybrid water cooler on there, and the classified being a little bit bigger card with a little bit bigger fans than the standard For the Win card and bigger heatsink. But this has extra features in there like the hardware monitor probes for things like voltage. It's got 14+3 power phase versus the 10+2 on the For the Win. And I was kind of curious as to how this would stack up against the hybrid card, considering water cooler versus a giant air cooler. Out of the box, they both ramped up to the same core clock of 2025. But this one here, obviously, as it reached 70C, it's running at 70C right now. This one came down to 1962 megahertz, which is still 100 megahertz faster than the advertised boost clock. So I wouldn't call that thermal throttling.
Whoa, I'm gonna pump the brakes here for just a second, because I know someone out there just got rustled a little bit, because what I just described, many people would say,
No, Jay, that's actually thermal throttling. Why are you being such a shill?
well, actually what I just described is dynamic frequency control. It's actually quite different than thermal throttling. Thermal throttling, according to the definition on overclockers.com and even semiconductor manufacturers, will tell you that thermal throttling is a safeguard when TDP and temperatures exceed rated limits. In order to keep itself from damaging any components, it will slow the core and the voltage down to safe limits. What I just described at 70C is clearly not causing damage to that GPU, nor is the TDP exceeded. It's nothing more than a dynamic frequency control to keep things as cool as possible. So in the terms of definition of thermal throttling, that is not what is taking place. So y'all gotta stop throwing around that terminology, man. It's getting people confused, like bottlenecking and future-proofing. Anyway, Editing Jay is done ranting. Let's go ahead and get back to the show.
Now, all the settings you saw on those benchmarks are out of the box between the hybrid and the For the Win and the Founders. There is absolutely no difference whatsoever. Took it out of the box, plugged it in, didn't touch a damn setting, and there you go. But if you were to take the fan curve and just add a little bit more percentage to it, because it's extremely conservative, it's super quiet. Fan is running at 50% right now. It makes no noise because of the ball bearing design and the ACX coolers. You can get more performance out of it with acoustics still not being intrusive, especially considering I can't hear the thing right now in an open test bench. In a case, it's only going to be even quieter. So you can get more performance and have the core clock step down less by adding more fan curve. And what happened at that point was this was actually beating the hybrid card at the same frequency, which I thought was kind of strange considering you would think a GP104 core running at 2025 versus another one running at 2025 with the exact same memory speed of 5006 out of the box or 10,012 effective, you would have thought that it would have been identical results. But the hybrid was losing to the classified, even though the classified was a little bit hotter at the same speed. So I don't know what kind of voodoo magic they're doing here, but yeah, whatever it is, it's working. So anyway, I'll be doing another video specifically about fan curve, only fan curve, no power target or anything, because I've done overclocking videos and I've shown how bumping up the fan curve can help with dynamic clock adjusting, but I've never shown how much gains you actually get by simply messing with a few clicks of a program to make your graphics card perform better. So that's actually going to be the next video. Look for that on Friday. I've actually already filmed that video, and that's going to be going out Friday. So I think there will be some good information to be had there. And that's the cool thing about this is that applies to any graphics card with a fan. So it doesn't matter if it's team green, team red, whatever. If it has a fan, it will benefit from adjusting the fan curve. But specifically in that video, I plan on comparing blower style coolers like on the reference cards versus these open air style coolers with the multiple fans and seeing, do you get the same benefit with these multi-fan configs versus a blower cooler. So look for that. Now the last thing to talk about here is voltage, because I think some people might have been expecting to see additional voltage available to the core on the classified cards. But I'm here to say that the voltage is still the same as Founders voltage actually. It doesn't go higher than 1.092, and that's if you bump up the voltage actually. Right now it's running at 1.043, and the core clock is at 1962 as we already talked about. So 1.092 is the hard volt limit for GP104. And if you go to the plus 100, you might get there if you overclock the graphics card to the max frequency stable. You will probably never see 1.092 if you stay around safe ranges, around the 1950, 2000 range. You'll probably never see that voltage. So I've talked to some folks in the industry, and they've all pretty much said the same thing. GP104 or Pascal FinFET design period is not benefiting from the extra voltage. In fact, it's kind of getting harmful in some cases where it actually destabilizes the core a little bit and doesn't give you any extra core clock whatsoever. So it's kind of interesting though that a card is based on all of these additional hardware voltage monitoring stuff, 130% power limit. Right now we're sitting at 78% of that power limit. And yeah, it kind of makes me wonder how much benefit there is to all those features if you can't push the voltage any farther. But again, I'm not a modder. I don't go in there and start soldering stuff, so I really don't know. I just don't know. I've seen some mods floating around out there already, but I'm wondering if you guys would buy this card and then start like doing solder mods and things like that. Who knows? Maybe some of you guys are. I'm not brave enough to do it. You guys do it and report back to me. I'm not going to do it. And one last thing, obviously, yeah, I did change the LEDs to green because, again, green test bench. But it is RGB, so you can change the LEDs to any color that you want to match your build, which is kind of funny, though, considering it's got the red grills in there and the red grill built into the back plate. So if you're doing green like this and you're looking at it in a standard case, you're still going to see red in the back plate, which is kind of unfortunate in my opinion. I think the color scheme they put on the For the Win with the gunmetal-y color and it's black, that would look better on the classified, in my opinion, rather than the red. Again, that's my subjective hat, but I digress. Bet you guys thought we were gonna make it through a whole video without getting digressed upon. Whatever. Anyway, guys, time to go. Thanks for watching here. Skunkworks V4.62 or whatever it is, it's very soon. I've almost got all the parts I need to start that build, and I kind of feel like a dirty whore, but yeah, we're going with 2 Titan X's. I know. I'm so fickle, I can never make up my mind. But you guys told me it's Skunkworks, it's the centerpiece of the channel. You gotta put the best in there. Yeah, so we're gonna do Titan X two-way SLI. Could put a third one in there and just call it a PhysX card. That'll probably piss some people off.